Hello, this is My Sweet Mess, and welcome to my kitchen, where every week I make a mess trying new recipes in the pursuit of something sweet. This week I am excited to try a new to me recipe for Cadbury Egg Cookies from Ellen and Amy at Like Mother, Like Daughter, and I'll leave a link to the original recipe in the show notes below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get started with our bake. To begin, let's get started with our mise en place. Mise en place is a French term for putting in place or everything in its place. It's the process of preparing your tools and ingredients before you get started cooking. For this recipe, the ingredients are listed out in weight and in volume. I chose to measure the ingredients out by weight because it's more precise. If you don't have a scale, then using a measuring cup is absolutely fine. For this recipe, we need unsalted cold butter, brown sugar, granulated sugar, eggs, vanilla extract, flour, cornstarch, baking soda, baking powder, salt, chocolate chips, white chocolate chips, and mini Cadbury eggs. I'm using the milk chocolate Cadbury eggs, but you could certainly use the dark chocolate eggs to add a nice flavor contrast. I also went ahead and chopped the mini eggs slightly. I did my best to cut them in half very carefully, which should help ensure that the eggs are evenly distributed throughout the dough. Word of caution, chopping the eggs was a little bit tricky, so be very careful. Now that the ingredients are measured out, let's prep our equipment. For this recipe, we will need a stand mixer fitted with a paddle attachment or an electric hand mixer, a cookie sheet lined with parchment paper as well as a cooling rack, a spatula, and a 3.5 ounce disher or a scale like I have here. I'm going to use this to weigh out my dough later on. And I've also gone ahead and wrapped it in cling wrap just to make cleanup a lot easier. Now that our equipment is prepped and our ingredients are measured out, let's get started with our bake. To begin, we will add our butter, brown sugar, and granulated sugar to the bowl of our stand mixer. Now that everything is in the bowl of our stand mixer, I am going to crank it up to medium speed and let it run for about 2 minutes or until the butter is smooth and creamy. When I turned my mixer on, that cold butter did not want to mix. In fact, it splashed all of the brown sugar out of the bowl. So I went back and took a look at the original recipe, and what I was supposed to do is take my cold butter and slice it before putting it into the bowl of my stand mixer. So what I'm going to do now is get a knife and slice it while it's in the bowl. So lesson learned, to trust your instincts and read all of those steps very carefully. I'm also going to add a little bit of brown sugar back because there's a lot of brown sugar on my counters and floor now. And I want that in the cookies. So learn from my mistakes when making this recipe. Slice your butter. Let's see if that's a little bit better. I'm gonna start it off slow. So this looks pretty good to me. That butter and granulated sugar is nicely incorporated together. Everything looks smooth and it smells wonderful. So I'm just scraping the bottom and the sides of the bowl. And then we can go ahead and add in our eggs and the vanilla. And I'm just going to turn this on a low setting just until all of the ingredients are stirred together. This looks pretty good to me. Everything is just combined. So now we will add in our dry ingredients. So into the bowl goes the flour, cornstarch, baking soda, baking powder, and salt. And I'm just going to give this a few turns with the spatula before I turn the mixer back on. This looks pretty nice to me, so I'm going to turn the mixer back on to about medium speed and let it run for a minute or so. While the dough is coming together, I wanted to point out if you decided to measure your ingredients versus weighing your ingredients out, that is absolutely fine. But make sure you're using the scoop and level method when measuring your flour for this recipe, or you may end up with too much. Our dough has come together very nicely, and now it's time to add in our mix-ins. I'm not going to add everything all at once. I'm going to save quite a bit to add on at the end before it goes into the oven. But if you want to add all of the mix-ins all at once, be my guest. And now we will just stir this together. Adding in the mix-ins and stirring the dough would be a great opportunity to involve helping hands in the kitchen. Now that looks pretty good to me, so let me grab our previously prepared pan and our scale and let's start scooping our cookies. I have our previously prepared pan here and our scale, and I'm going to start weighing out the dough. Now each cookie should be about 3.5 ounces, and I'm not looking for a perfect shape. So as I weigh out the dough, I'm not going to roll the cookie into a dough ball. I'm just going to kind of let it have sort of that uneven, rustic look to the cookie. Using my impeccably clean hands, I am going to sort of mush the dough together to get sort of a cookie shape. You'll notice as I'm dishing up these cookies and placing them on the tray, I'm not leaving any space between the cookies. And that's because these guys are not going directly into the oven. Instead, I'm going to cover these cookies in a layer of plastic wrap and pop them in the fridge overnight. This is totally optional, but I find if I let my cookies rest in the fridge overnight, they end up with a thicker and chewier consistency. So I will be here just weighing and dishing my cookies, and I'll come back once all of my cookies are ready to go in the refrigerator. All of my cookies are dished out and decorated. I added some of the chocolate chips and some of the Cadbury egg pieces that I held out from mixing into the batter, just to add a little bit of an extra visual element to the tops of my cookies. So now I'm going to pop a piece of plastic wrap over the top of my tray and put them in the refrigerator overnight. So I'll be back tomorrow and we will bake these cookies and finally give them a taste. And I'm back! It's day 2 here for our Cadbury Egg Cookies. I have my oven preheated to 375. I also went ahead and pulled my cookies out of the refrigerator and put them on their own individual trays so that they are ready to bake. As you can see, I have about 5 or 6 cookies per tray, and the reason I left so much space in between each cookie is because these are going to be large bakery size, bakery style cookies. So I want to give them plenty of room to stretch and expand in the oven. Now the recipe says to let these guys cook in our 375 degree oven for about 10 to 14 minutes, but because my cookies are coming straight from the refrigerator, I'm actually going to start them at 14 minutes and then check on them from there. Now I'll know these cookies are done when the edges get a nice golden brown and the tops aren't quite set. And I'll come back once all of our cookies are out of the oven. My first 2 trays of cookies are out of the oven, and I knew they were done because the edges of the cookies are a nice golden brown and the middles are a little bit soft and gooey. I also went ahead and put finishing salt on both trays of cookies, which is totally optional. What I'm going to do now is actually let these guys hang out on the pans for about 10 more minutes, and then I'll pop them on the cooling rack and let them cool completely. So I'll come back once all of my cookies are out of the oven and are completely cooled. And wow, these look wonderful and they smell fantastic. I expected these cookies to be a little bit more puffy and tall, especially considering how much dough is in each cookie and the fact that I put them in the refrigerator. From what I was understanding, if you refrigerate the dough overnight, it helps prevent some of the spread. That doesn't seem to be what happened here. It looks like these guys spread out quite a bit, and they're actually a little bit thin, in my opinion, in the middle. And I don't know if that's because of the amount of flour that was used, or if it's the amount of mix-ins that we used in the batter. Either way, they smell fantastic and they look fun, and I have a funny feeling that even though these aren't exactly what I had in mind, I think they're gonna taste absolutely delicious. So enough chit-chatting, let's give this guy a taste. And wow, these really are absolutely wonderful. They are sweet and buttery. They have a really nice crunch coming from the outside edge of that cookie. And when you get a bite of the Cadbury egg, it's a really nice textural contrast. I am so glad I sprinkled a little bit of finishing salt on top of each cookie. That salty contrast against the sweet chocolate is absolutely out of this world. When I make this again, I'm going to dial back the amount of chocolate chips, white chocolate chips, and Cadbury eggs I put in the dough. As a starting point, I would probably half the amount of chocolate chips, white chocolate chips, and Cadbury eggs for the cookies, knowing that I could add more if I needed to, but it's really hard, but you can't take it away once it's in the batter. This cookie has a nice crispy, crunchy edge, and the middle is soft and chewy. These are going to be a huge hit at any Easter or spring celebration. I am off to find an ice cold glass of milk to go with these chocolate cookies. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And remember, trying new things is messy, but the end result can be pretty sweet. Have a great rest of your day. Bye now.